Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Okay, before we start, one of the things I love is when people really tell the story about themselves and how they dress. So I need to know the story about the necklace, the hat. What are you telling us?
The hat is from Yucatan. We go to Yucatan quite a bit. Because we're part Mayans, and so we travel through the Yucatan a lot, through Guatemala and as far as Nicaragua. And this is also one of the dioses of the Mayans. Also got it in the Yucatan.
So you have powerful ancestral backing.
Spiritual.
Yes.
It's balance.
All right, so you have been, I think of all the candidates, you certainly have been a part of this district the longest, born and raised, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, your story. I mean, I know many of us know bits and pieces, but what was it like growing up here in the mission and kind of seeing the changes, and what are the biggest changes that you've seen, and what have we lost that you really miss?
Growing up here was one of the most beautiful things here in the mission. We lived on York Street between 23rd and 22nd. I lived right across the street from Bryant School, and I knew everybody on the block. I knew everybody down the block. I knew everybody 20 blocks down. And we could play out in the street all day, all night, and my mother would yell, Roberto, and it's like you need to come home or you get the chancla, And part of that was so beautiful because at that time, we had African Americans on our block, we had Filipinos, we had Irish, we had Italians, every kind of Latino you could think of. And so it was beautiful because I grew up in a time where there wasn't racism. I mean, we all got along. In fact, you could walk into somebody's house and literally don't ring the doorbell. You didn't have to knock. You just walked in and you sat in the kitchen. If they were in the living room, they'd offer you something to eat, especially Filipinos. I mean, you left home with Tupperware, And so food was really, really important, and essential, and it fed us. But we got to play out in the street, and it was safe, And so for me as a child growing up, it was one of the most beautiful times. Unfortunately, today children cannot be outside and be safe, and that makes me very sad. One. Second of all, I really believe that at that time, the education system was totally different, and that really impacted me. Even though I was born here, my mom came here 6 months pregnant from Nicaragua, I didn't know English when I went to kindergarten. And so for the first 5 years of my life, all I learned was Spanish. When I got to school, we were forbidden from speaking Spanish. And I had a very difficult time. Academically, I got behind. It got to the point where I got sent to the principal's office, and the principal called my papa, who was at work, and at that time, having him leave a job and miss hours and not get paid was like, I knew I was in trouble, and it was like the most fearful moment in my life growing up, knowing that he was going to come to my school, and he didn't punch me. I didn't get a whipping, and I didn't get a scolding. And all he told me was, I understand what's going on. I didn't. But as I grew older, I got it. And finally, because I wasn't academically achieving, he sent me away for the summer to Delano, California. I had no idea what I was going to go do. All he told me is, you're going to go volunteer and you're going to be of service, and you're going to come back changed. You think we're poor, you're going to learn about property. And sure enough, I got on this old bus, and that smelled as it got further to Delano. And here we landed up in an old church, and we're told to sleep on this old floor of the auditorium of the church. And here I was, with the United Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta. I didn't know who they were. All I knew was I was there to be of service. Farm workers were getting paid 40 cents an hour at that time. The hardest working people, and I could not believe it. And that was the beginning of me learning about unions and the importance of union and organizing. It taught me about the people working from sunrise to sunset with no breaks, no water. I mean, it was inhumane what was happening at that time with farm workers. And it was not only Latino farm workers, but it was also Filipinos. And I want to honor the Filipinos because the Filipinos really never get credit for the organizing that they did back in those days. Cesar and Dolores have always been at the forefront with our Filipino brothers and sisters really were part of that movement. And so not having a TV, because there was no TV, there was only little radio boxes at that time, and there was a lot of guitars and a lot of singing. And we read every night. We read books, but you passed the book and you read a chapter and you talk about the chapter. And when the book was passed to me, I couldn't read. And that was the beginning of them teaching me how to read and write. And man, I learned a whole lot of words. I learned how to read quite a bit. And they really taught me about the challenge of no matter what's in front of you, to step up and take that challenge and win.
Okay, so that is actually a glorious segue. Thank you so much. Because you came back to the mission, and I think it goes without saying you have been a force in the community, from leading different initiatives, starting different programs, working with different, pretty much every single mayor, supervisor, so on and so forth. And, the record, the legacy there is clear. So the natural question is, why are you running for office?
Because enough is enough. I really feel that as growing up here in this beautiful city, to see what's during the pandemic and now another pandemic, we're in pain and we need to heal. And our environment is not safe for us as human beings. I really believe that, people talk about the environment and save the whales. What about saving people and human beings? And that's what we really need to do right now. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place. And I really feel that we, especially here in D9, along with the Tenderloin, have been the ones who've been impacted the most. And we need to focus on that. And we really need to look at, from education to employment to drugs to alcohol to all the different needs that we have, and really look at a comprehensive way how we all work together, because one person can't do it. It's got to be a community coming together. And that's been the success of the work that I've been able to do. It's not me, it's been we. And so I look at how we can collectively come together and make a change.
So, and shout out to Mission Local. Yes, please feel free to applaud. Shout out to Mission Local, because I think they've done a really great job each week with the different questions. So they were very helpful in me preparing for today. And they asked you and the other candidates about the top priorities for D9, and I think they asked for one. But instead of giving one priority, you gave them a list of 5 concerns: crime, housing, homelessness, wages, and clean streets. So how would you rank those in terms of urgency? And if elected, which would you tackle first?
Safety. And I believe that when we look at safety, everybody expects the police department to solve all the problems. They can't solve all the problems, number one. So we have a responsibility, and together we can do this. Many years ago in San Francisco, we used to have a senior escort program. The senior needed to go shopping, the senior needed to go to the doctors, whatever needs they had. We need to go back to that. We need to keep our seniors safe and take care of our seniors. Our seniors have paid their dues. They have worked all their lives. And to be vulnerable today is uncalled for. So one, I want to see that senior escort program reinstated in San Francisco. Second of all is that there's a lot of times the police gets a call because the neighbors complaining about somebody else or something's going on. You know, we used to have, and we still have, but it's not at the level we used to have. It was called community boards. You know, community boards was an excellent program where if you had beef with somebody, you can go deal with it within your peers, right? The third and most important is that we really got to look at how do we keep our children safe in our schools, and that's a huge problem today. We have, me and my wife, we have a 16-year-old that goes to Mission High School, and he would not believe the things that he comes home and tells us of feeling unsafe, whether being on the school ground or off-site, when he's just simply running around for PE, running around the block. So what we have to really do is, again, is think out the box and really look at how do we use our finances and our funding that we have available for safety, right? And collectively create a plan that meets the needs of every district differently. Because the problems that we have here are not the same problems that Noe Valley has, or, for example, the Sunset has. So I think it's important that every district have the ability of having its community come together and come up with solutions for the problems that they're confronted with when it comes to safety.
Okay, so definitely I'm hearing a lot of, like, not me, but we, a lot of community-focused solutions, and we have the community here right now. So I'd like to hear from you all, a show of like 5 or 6 people. What is the issue that you are most concerned about? What is the one that's going to be your deciding issue? I may have to call on people just to move. Sir, here in the front with the glasses. You were right there.
No, you know, just being able to walk down the street, you know, like you said with the elders, I'd be very vulnerable, you know, to get mugged. One of my friends' moms got mugged, you know, just coming home from work, you know, and heartbreaking and whatnot, so that is one of the things that.
Anyone on this side? Yes, nice and loud.
I'm most concerned about drug overdose and addiction and how you would handle the 800 people who overdosed on our streets last year.
And let me get one from the window seat area. Anyone? Yes, go ahead.
Small businesses district.
Actually, thank you. We're going to pivot to small business because that is, I'm originally from Atlanta, and so I often find myself comparing what it's like here in San Francisco to what it's like there. And I'm always struck by a city that has so many people who love it so immensely and want to bring these incredible ideas and incredible businesses to the city and the community, but they run into obstruction after obstruction and challenge after challenge. It's expensive, there's safety issues, there's regulations, they think they got it all together, and the Department of Planning's like, oopsie. And it's just, you know, small businesses are the heart of, you know, our business corridors. That's what really makes a neighborhood come alive during the workday. What are your plans and strategies for the small businesses? I mean, we hear, you know, obviously here in Valencia, many of the small businesses like had a day of strike because that very curious thing in the back behind us called the bicycle corridor. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but there's that. There is the challenge of the unhoused and people not feeling safe and not supporting the businesses. So, you know, tell us a little bit about your plans there.
So growing up here, again, you know, Mission Street was one of the most thriving business corridor in San Francisco. I mean, you didn't have to
Be
leave.
patient. They'll get back to you.
What did I do
Just
wrong?
Be patient.
What did I do wrong?
Be patient. Be patient, kind, patient.
I mean it. We had. And so we look at Mission Street, you know, alone, you know, we've had over since.
How you doing? It's good to see you.
Businesses that shut down, and so that translates to over 1,800 people who lost their job, right? And so we gotta look at how do we get these vacant storefronts open up again? Number one is that we have to create incubator spaces, because everybody can't afford the rents today. But if we create incubator spaces, right, and put 4 different individuals in a space, then it's affordable. Second of all is that if you remember, we had the Mercado that was on 22nd and Mission that had 24 different smaller businesses. You had quinceañera dresses, you had pupusas, you had piñatas. So we need to, the other one is create spaces where we can have mercados, right? But also is to really look at how do we take these spaces and really look at getting them for small businesses with a lease with an option to buy. Because that's part of the problem, is that a lot of these small businesses, the rents is too high. And so we need to change the narrative, and right now is the opportunity to do that. The other area is that we need to really look at creating a pathway, because you're absolutely correct. It's not only the Department of Planning, but you got the Department of Health, you got the Fire Department, you got the Department of Building Inspection, you have plant, you have up to one business might have to go to 9 different departments, you know? And so by the time you go to all these different departments, guess what? You're paying rent every month to the landlord and you're not open. You know, I know 2 women that opened up a business at it's over a year. They put out 100,000 plus. They went out of business and never even opened the door, right? That is criminal. You really need to get all the city departments and get them all in one room and say, this is what I'm planning, what do I need?
I'm able to stand.
And get a timetable. It should not take that. That never existed if you look back in the 70s and the 60s. So it's about cutting the red tape bureaucracy, right? And then the other thing is some of these fees make it